They tried to take my place because they thought a guy like me wouldn't fight. That's how this starts. 25 cents and a rusty bid card in a county courtroom. And a year later, I'm standing on the dock of a glass-still lake listening to a woman in designer boots tell me I don't own what I rebuilt with my hands. Name's Evan Dale. I'm a plumber who sleeps better after a hard day and never says no to busted copper. After my divorce, I started haunting tax auctions the way some folks haunt fishing holes, quiet, early, hopeful. One Thursday, buried between foreclosed condos and weed-choked lots, there was a line that didn't look real. Hemlock Shore Cabin, 14.8 acres minimum bid. I laughed, then drove out anyway. Lake Halcyon sits outside a little Montana town called North Ridge, where the mountains fold like sleeping bison, and the water mirrors the sky so perfectly you question which way is up. The cabin was a 1961 time capsule. Hand-hewn logs, proud old bones, a roof shot to pieces, but the foundation was straight, and the shoreline felt like a promise. I won it for a quarter and a headache of back taxes I could handle with weekend work. The first morning I pulled nails and peeled back rot, she arrived. Marina Locke, president of the Cedar Vale Property Standards Council, which is a fancy way of saying HOA, with more belt buckles and fewer smiles. Her SUV idled like a well-fed predator. She stepped out, held a 3-inch binder like scripture, and smiled like a dentist who had already decided to drill. Mr. Dale, this structure violates our view corridor and shoreline harmony articles. Demolition is the only compliant path. I told her the cabin predates any council by decades, that the county sold me a valid tax deed. She tilted her head. Tax sales are cute, but we have standards. People who fit the community. You have 72 hours to remove this eyesore. Her perfume cut through the resin and sawdust. I thought about my dad teaching me to sweat a joint, and how you hold heat steady and patient until the solder runs exactly where you want. I told her I wasn't going anywhere. What followed felt like death by paper cut. Her nephew Trent, soft hands, hard clipboard, started writing tickets I didn't know existed. Truck not parallel to the property line. Unauthorized construction noise at 9:07 a.m. Debris container aesthetically incompatible. $500 a pop, the pink slips fluttering on my windshield like flamingos nesting. The point wasn't rules. The point was pressure. I did what tradespeople do. I read the manual. County vault smelled like dust, and old coffee gave me everything I needed. Cedar Vale wasn't recorded when the cabin went up. Lawful non-conforming use means you can't drag an old place under new rules like a net. I brought the documents to a strip mall lawyer and got lucky with a paralegal named Naya, who had a mean eye for footnotes. They can huff all they want, she said, flipping pages. They don't have jurisdiction on a pre-65 parcel outside their recorded plat. We filed. And because I was tired of feeling cornered, I started filming time lapses of pressure washing gray log into honey grain close-ups of rechinking me, talking through electrical safety while copper gleamed like a penny line. Folks started watching. Then they started cheering. That's when the county building inspector rolled in, pinning a stop work order to my half-hung door with the flair of a game show host. $10,000 a day for unpermitted work. My permit applications, as it turned out, lived in a mysterious MISC folder the clerk swore she'd never seen before. A friend from the hardware store, Luis, whispered that the inspector golfed with Marina every Thursday. I put that on camera without saying much at all. The internet did the math in the comments. The pressure pushed me toward the story under the story. An older man at the tackle shop, Mr. Hanley, told me about his daughter's place up on Birch Cut Road. Same pattern: citations, threats, legal fees, quick sale to a company connected to Marina's husband, flip for 6 times the price. I brought that to Naya, and she brought it to a columnist in town, Lila Mendez, who smelled blood and asked for dates, receipts, emails, anything that wasn't just anger. We stacked evidence like firewood and waited for a cold night. Meanwhile, I found a hidden panel in the basement old newspaper, shims, a coffee can stuffed with papers that crackled like dry leaves. Inside the original survey showing my parcel carved out clean, plus a 1988 memo from a geologist testing the ridge for rare earths and geothermal vents. It wasn't a Hollywood treasure map. It was worse. It was paperwork, and it changed everything. Subsurface rights weren't excluded in the tax deed. If a company wanted exploration access, they'd have to pay handsomely. Offers came quiet at first, then louder. I pictured drills at sunrise and diesel on the water, and my stomach tied a knot. I also pictured my debts turned to dust. That's where I learned the difference between being rich and being free. Marina didn't slow down. When the smear campaign started, it was surgical flyers with my face claiming fraud, phony reviews tanking my small plumbing jobs, a concerned neighbor's Facebook page that posted at 3:11 a.m. like a bot and sounded like a press release. Then the vandalism hit sugar in the skid steer paint on new Cedar Go Home keyed down Luis's truck. Our little cameras caught Trent creeping through brush in a reflective vest, bright as a caution sign. The sheriff, to his credit, looked embarrassed, serving me the next stack of papers. "I'm sorry, Evan. It's politics. I gotta let the system chew." I signed, turned on another camera, and kept going. Act 2 turned on one embarrassing truth: Cedar Vale wasn't properly incorporated with the state. Their bylaws were cosplay. Every citation they'd ever written was confetti. Naya found it in an index number someone fat-fingered 5 years ago, and nobody fixed because power is a habit, and habits get sloppy. Lila ran a 3-part series that made coffee shops hum, and the state AG's office started sniffing around. Marina showed up at my kitchen one evening with a smaller car and a bigger smile, the kind people practice in mirrors. She set a briefcase on the table and eased out neat stacks of hundreds. "We can be neighbors, Evan. You walk away. I make this right. No one gets hurt." I let the phone record from the spice rack and stirred my coffee while she talked herself into a felony. The finale happened at a meeting they called to restore order. Folding chairs in the Cedar Vale clubhouse. Warm lights buzzing a line of cameras at the back, because the story had traveled farther than the lake ever could. Marina opened with the speech of a lifetime about community, about outsiders, about values. I stood when she said my name like it made her mouth taste bad. I didn't give a speech. I played a timeline, citations, emails, golf photos, the state filing, showing their non-existence, Trent in that stupid vest, and a clip, quiet as a confession, of Marina sliding bills across my table. The room made a sound I've only heard once when a pipe bursts behind a restaurant wall, and every diner hears the same pop at the same moment and knows dessert is canceled. The doors opened. 2 state investigators walked in with the sheriff, who looked like a man who'd been waiting months for this exact walk. Handcuffs don't make noise the way movies say they do. They click soft, like a light switching off. Trent tried to stand behind a ficus. Someone actually laughed. Marina never looked at me. She looked at the cameras, and for a second, I saw the real engine. It wasn't just money. It was control dressed as taste. After that, the dust settled the way dust does, slow in corners first. We set up the Halcyon Commons Trust, not as a halo, but as a ledger lease, a sliver of geothermal rights to fund trails and restoration, keep 95% of the land stitched together with easements that outlive all of us. I kept the cabin because I wanted to hear my boots on that floor after dark, and know the sound was mine. Lila moved out here on a whim and stayed for the winter, because she said the quiet gave her better sentences. We burn too much coffee and argue about commas at the picnic table, and I've never felt more certain that the right kind of fight gives you more than it takes. People ask what it felt like when they led Marina out in cuffs. Honestly, not triumphant. More like exhaling after holding my breath through a long tunnel. What I remember best is the next morning fog hugging the lake. A loon calling like a lonely violin, my hands smelling like cedar oil and coffee grounds. I patched the paint scars on the logs and thought this is what winning looks like, boring, steady, patient. Heat the joint, feed the solder, let gravity finish the job. If you've ever been squeezed by a board, a boss, or a council that mistook authority for law, I want to hear it. Who was right? Who was wrong? And what would you have done different if you were me? Sell the rights, take the money, walk away, or turn a quarter into a community? Drop your take in the comments. Share this with someone who needs a backbone today, and tell me where you're watching from. See just how far a lakeshore story can travel.